911, where's your emergency?
I killed somebody.
Who did you kill? Nine 911, where's your emergency?
I killed somebody.
Who did you kill?
I don't want to say right now.
He says this is where he buried the body, and here's the shovel. He says it's not very deep either.
He was a bad man.
In the late afternoon of July 21st, 2020, dispatchers at Marion County receive a disturbing 911 call. At first, police officers are hesitant to believe the man who claims to have committed a heinous crime. But as officers arrive on the scene, they quickly discover that getting to the bottom of the truth will be no easy task.
Okay, what's your name?
My name's John Wells.
John Welsh?
Yes.
Do you have any type of
I don't have any
on you,
weapons.
sir?
I don't have anything. I don't want to. I'm just trying to drink my. I'm not doing anything wrong right now. I'm just.
Sir, I promise you, I'm not accusing you of doing anything wrong whatsoever. I'm just trying to know what my officers are walking into.
The guy's buried here.
You buried the person at your house?
Yes. This is a confession. I'm going peaceful.
Police are soon dispatched to meet with the distraught caller, unaware of what they're about to get themselves into. The following footage has never been seen before.
I killed someone.
Okay, where at?
Killed him here.
Here at this house?
Yes.
How long ago?
This was about a couple months ago.
Okay. Who was the person you killed?
I'd rather not see it right now.
Okay, well how am I gonna know if somebody's missing or what you're saying is true?
Because the person was very estranged and very outlawed.
Where's the person at now?
Out back.
Can I go look? You don't mind?
I don't mind.
John's reluctance to give details about the victim leaves police questioning whether his story is true. So, two officers begin their search of the suspect's backyard.
Anything out of the ordinary, Nick? Huh?
Something was dug up 2 months ago.
No. He's saying it's 2 months ago?
Yeah.
When the officer returns to ask for a more specific location, John is quick to share exactly where he buried the body.
Where at in the backyard? What area?
Under the left window. Where the flower, the garden is. That's where he is.
Who is it?
Some older guy that he just met that day.
His claim that the victim was nothing more than a stranger will not be the first of his many lies today. Separating fact from fiction will be more than a challenge, given John's apparent state of intoxication.
So, why would you, obviously you're saying you killed somebody, so you're admitting the homicide and that he's here, which we could easily find out if we start digging up your yard. So, why would you withhold the guy's name?
Do you know the guy's name?
We would just kind of like to get a head start, seeing if we can find out if he's been reported missing or nobody even knows he's gone. That kind of stuff, you know?
Despite their repeated questions about the victim's identity, John appears hesitant to share any crucial details.
I don't think so.
Sir, do you want me to go ahead and give him a call?
I don't think so. I think he was a piece of no one wants.
Can you tell us just so we can check?
Jasper. Jasper, that's all I know. That's all I know his name to be. And he was a black. That wasn't the reason.
Well, I'm not saying,
That
just trying
wasn't,
to
but
figure
that
out
was
who he was.
that wasn't the reason.
Okay, yeah, nobody's saying it was.
Where's he from? Do you know?
He said he was from Colorado. He said he was from Colorado.
He goes on to explain that he met Jasper through a neighbor and that he'd been living in his truck parked in John's driveway.
Where's his truck at now?
I have no idea.
Did you do something with it, or?
Officers may be hesitant to believe him, but as they discuss it amongst themselves, John finally speaks up. His answer and following confession make it clear that unearthing the truth will be harder than they imagined.
He was staying in his truck, and his truck was here in the driveway, but it got towed away by somebody, and basically, sounds like what he's saying is somebody got rid of it for him.
It's a lie. I'm sorry. I'm lying to you.
Okay.
What are you lying about? Everything?
I'm not lying about it. I'm lying about that.
But you're not lying about the homicide.
Everything else is true.
Okay. Where'd this all happen at then?
Right here.
Outside, inside?
Right here.
Where we're standing?
Right here where we're standing.
Okay. How many shots were fired? Do you know how many shots you fired? 3?
Let me see if I can check that out.
With little more to go on than a first name, a missing truck, and a less than truthful suspect, police search their database for clues. What they discover next may provide some much-needed answers. 2 months before officers arrived on the scene, this call was placed to 911.
I believe I heard a gunshot. I'm not 100% sure, but it was way too different to be a firework. And then there was 2. They were about, I want to say, 2 minutes apart.
Any idea where they might have been coming from? What direction?
Yeah, it was really close. I believe, honestly, it was next door to me.
Fortunately, the neighbor in question is home. As it turns out, her boyfriend was with her at the time of the incident, and he begins to describe the disturbing details of what he witnessed.
Well, me and her brother were over there playing GTA, like 1, 2 in the morning.
Okay.
We heard a boom. Like, I asked him, "Do you hear the noise? Was that you?" And he literally opened his door again, pointed it. I'm not saying gun because I'm not 100% sure, but pointing whatever down, boom.
If he was shooting a gun, he would have shot it inside the truck?
Yeah, like right on, like right in the floorboard, you wouldn't be honest. It would look like, at least.
All that the officers need to know now is the location of the handgun. Unfortunately, the answers they get are far from what they want to hear.
How did you kill this person?
With a Russian knife.
A handgun? And you still have this handgun?
Somebody broke in and stole. Somebody broke into my house, and somebody broke into my house since then. And they stole it.
Sure, pat him down. Huh. We're going to check just make sure you don't have your weapons on you, okay?
Do you have any weapons on you?
No.
No guns, no knives or anything? How much have you had to drink today?
About 2.5 of these.
You got probation or anything?
I am.
As officers struggle to get the answers they need from the intoxicated suspect, help arrives in the form of 2 detectives who are determined to uncover the truth. While the first prepares to question John in his driveway, the other heads to the back where the body supposedly lies buried.
He says this is where he buried the body in here. There's the shovel. He says it's not very deep either.
Looks like he even went and got topsoil or something and put it on.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from. But this is
bought it.
Yeah, that's true too. He says not very deep, but
I think he had intentions for the gas cans.
don't know. He's sometimes he is very forthcoming and then he won't. So But see how it's like that in some bricks. There's 2 boards. He just threw together like whatever he had.
That's just weeds in there.
Yeah, that's what.
You didn't plant anything.
Nope, just some grass and some. Alrighty.
While one detective can only speculate, unable to disturb the shallow dirt without the help of a crime scene unit, the other works to uncover what could have driven Jonathan to commit such a grave act. What he claims is more shocking than anyone could have imagined.
Can you just take me from the top of what's going on while we're here today? Tell me in your own terms.
In my own way.
Yep.
He was in.
Okay. How did you know?
I had just met.
Where'd you meet him at?
I don't want to give those names.
Okay. What happens?
Okay, so I lost my job.
When did you lose your job?
I'm thinking about 3 months ago.
Okay. So you lost your job. Somehow you and this, what's his name?
We got into it because he was a random person.
Yeah,
That I knew that.
okay.
He asked me.
While the police have redacted this part of the footage, John's initial call to 911 may shed some light on what was redacted.
He was a bad man. He made comments to me. He made comments to me about my son.
About the man wanted to do that, or was accusing you of doing that?
No, well, that because he wanted to.
Gotcha. How old's your son?
He's 8.
It's important to note the truth of the matter has not been verified, and the statements made by John only reflect his opinion on what happened. This disturbing accusation may be difficult to prove, but an unsettling discovery will later shed some light on this subject. For now, the detective will work to get as many details as possible from John.
I met the guy because we were trying to exchange business. Then I shot him.
You were in the house at that point?
I was out here. I was right here where we're standing. Right here. This is right here.
Okay.
So look below the neck.
Okay. That's the kid's done that.
There's no chance I can grab one more.
No. Yeah.
John now shows the detective where he buried the body, but his chilling actions as he stands over the makeshift grave will be difficult for officers to ignore.
I feel like I should be talking to a lawyer by now.
Okay.
Yeah, so you should probably have me in handcuffs.
Okay.
You're a homicide investigator. I'm telling you the truth.
Okay. Don, I gotta take this call just real quick. If you'll just stay here with Officer Gable for a minute, okay?
His name was Jasper.
Okay.
I'm not sure that was his real name.
Okay. But as far as you know, he's still laying in here. Buried a couple feet down, right?
He is.
Seemingly unnerved by John's silent stare, the officer attempts to get more information about the missing murder weapon.
But you don't have that gun anymore?
I don't. Somebody broke in that window. That window was easily acceptable.
Mm-hmm. Did you report that gun stolen? Did you call the police?
I called the police when an incident happened, and they knew I was, for a fact, in jail. And somebody...
Did you report the firearm stolen, though?
I did not.
Was it your firearm, registered to you, or...?
It was mine.
It was yours? Where'd you get it at?
I got it from a flea market.
Okay.
Just know on the St. Gallen call that I spoke with 494.
We'll go back out front so you don't have to stand out here. Right?
paint gallon as well as.
After putting out his cigarette in the dirt over the body buried just a few feet beneath the surface, John returns to the front of the house with the officers. When one officer thinks to ask what brought about his sudden desire to confess, his shocking revelation is not unexpected, as you'll soon learn.
Has the guilt of it been eating you up, or what made you decide to call us?
More like the evidence of it.
Okay.
You afraid since you're not paying your rent that your landlord's going to find you back there?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Shockingly, John's first call was not to 911. Knowing that he would soon be evicted, he opted to tell the one person he knew would eventually discover his jaw-dropping secret.
Okay, my name is Adam. I own a property. All I am is the owner. I'm not there right now, but the tenant just called me and said that he killed somebody there. Okay. He is there now. He is distraught. I told him that I was going to call you guys as soon as I got off the phone.
Yeah, he's actually on the phone with my partner right now.
I was just trying to keep the gentleman calm as I could keep him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm concerned for his well-being, and I told him, I said, I have to turn you in if you don't turn yourself in.
John revealed crucial details during his call to his landlord, as you'll hear later.
I don't know what to say. What's the news going to say now? The news is going to say I shot a black man because I was on meth. That's what the news is going to say.
Or were you on meth that night? Did you say?
I was not.
Okay.
I absolutely was not.
Did you use any meth today?
No.
When was the last time you used meth? No, the last time usually is the last time you used
I was dabbling with it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sure.
John, I want to just run through this real quick to make sure I got it straight. Okay. About 2 months ago, we're talking, this is July, so we're thinking May, early May, late May. Black guy from Colorado named Jasper comes here. You guys are going to make a deal. He's seeking meth, or you're seeking meth. He makes.
I was not. I never tried meth at that time.
Okay. So he's seeking meth from you. Right?
Or is he What was your business about?
We were mutually seeking money. I was seeking money to pay rent.
How were you going to get that money?
Plan was just to sell on Facebook. I had a 401k from the job I worked, and I was buying items, and I was intending to sell them. The reason that I met the guy was because I felt like I needed a mutual bond with somebody. Our agreement was that, and also I draw portraits.
Was there something involved between you two?
I'm sorry.
I just don't want to misunderstand. There's nothing between you two, right? You and Jasper? Or was there arrangement for that?
There was not.
Okay.
There was his misunderstanding that there would be.
Okay.
He was a gay man.
Okay. Did you ever correspond with this guy on the internet or anything?
No.
Once again, John reiterates his claim that Jasper made advances not toward him, but toward his 8-year-old child.
From what I understand here, there's going to be no proof or evidence of that.
Of him making the advances?
Right.
When one officer circles back to questions regarding the victim's missing truck, John quickly interrupts her to ask a startling question of his own.
For what color? Vehicle was even?
There's no chance I can buy myself more time with a drink.
No, well, can't let you have anything else. Can't let you get back in your house at this point.
I think I should just talk to an attorney.
Searching for clues, officers enter John's house but are quickly hit with yet another disturbing realization.
It smells like chemicals. Is he cooking meth?
I mean, if you smell in there...
Is he cooking meth?
I don't know. Get out of there, Dana.
He might be cooking meth in here. That's going to complicate things.
Yeah, it's much stronger.
Yeah, I know. I could smell it when you guys pulled that back.
Unable to search the home, investigators hit a brick wall. Without a clear story, no murder weapon, and increasingly confusing answers as to the relationship between the two men, police have no choice but to arrest John and hope that the truth can be uncovered during interrogation.
You been drinking today?
Yes.
Okay, this is the first time I've talked to you, correct? You understand what I mean by that?
I should probably talk to a lawyer.
Okay. All right.
Now that the interrogation can't continue because John has asked for an attorney, investigators have no choice but to end the conversation before it begins. An officer soon returns to book him into the county jail, but shockingly, not for the crime which he earlier confessed.
We don't really know what's going on with the stuff you're confessing to, so for right now, you're just going to go to jail for a probation violation since you've been drinking. Okay? We're going to figure all this other stuff out, though. Okay?
Although John's intoxicated state left detectives unable to piece together the full story at the scene, crime scene investigators later succeeded in unearthing the body. The victim would later be identified as 33-year-old Jasper Brady. According to police reports, his body was discovered just beneath the flower bed, exactly where John confessed to burying him. He was found cocooned in several layers of trash bags, tarps, and plastic wrap, which were each sealed in duct tape. A later autopsy would confirm the cause of death as 2 gunshot wounds to the chest. Although his body was nearly beyond recognition, the autopsy report noted several details about his appearance. These observations, when compared to the video you're about to see, have spine-chilling similarities. At the time of his death, Jasper's hair was styled in a distinctive low bun. He donned a thin plaid scarf, wore 2 necklaces, and his fingernails were painted.
The heavyweight title of the world, you say? Is that all? Oh, break and show. I'm home. You know, I'll tell you something. It really sucks turning on my video camera when I do not have what I love in the background. What do I love, you ask? You know what? That is very nice of you asking. I can't find anyone that ever asks, nor care to ask. So thank you so much for asking. If you asked. If you did not ask, you're just another.
This video, uploaded on May 19, 2020, is the last video Jasper Brady ever published. Once the house is deemed safe for investigators, they soon discover the trash bags used to wrap the body, a pair of blue rubber gloves, and the keys to Jasper's missing truck. The truck, which may have been the scene of the grisly crime, is still missing, along with the gun he used to commit the violent act. No secrets are safe in prison, and one inmate who shares a cell with John informs the investigators about the truck's and gun's location. Unfortunately, upon arriving at the location described by the inmate, the alleged garage where it was being held claimed to have never received a truck matching the vehicle's description. The truck and the gun are still missing. As for John's motive, he tells his landlord what ultimately pushed him over the edge.
You know, when my son was here, and he popped in and asked a question, and the guy asked me, he said, can we sell him? And that, you know, that just, it went under my head, you know, when he said it, and it upset you, John? Yeah. You know, there was a lot of other things on top of it, too. Right. And I understand that would be a hard thing. But, you know, with him, you know. Yeah, sure. I mean, if I was thinking clearly, I wouldn't have done that.
A later investigation unveiled a disturbing series of Facebook posts that may lend credence to his claims that Jasper held a horrifying secret. In these posts, made only days after John's arrest, they claimed to have been assaulted by Jasper Brady. They later contacted the police and made a chilling request.
I have something to say about, you have a murder case you're working on. Jasper Brady was killed a few days ago. I have something to say to your suspect. Tell him I said thank you for killing my.
You say, was
Tell your suspect, the guy who turned himself in for killing Jasper Brady, that I said thank you for killing my.
While these details are mentioned in the case files, we've not been able to confirm any of these allegations against Jasper Brady as facts. Jonathan Welsh has a long criminal history with multiple misdemeanor charges from 2006 up to 2022. These include theft, underage drinking, possession of substances, criminal trespassing, and child endangerment, among others. In the case of Jasper Brady, Jonathan Welsh was charged with murder, tampering with evidence, and abuse of a corpse. He ultimately pleaded guilty to 1 count of murder, and on August 30th, 2022, 2 years after the incident, Jonathan was sentenced to an indefinite term of 15 years to life in prison. He's currently being held at the Richland Correctional Institution in Mansfield, Ohio, and will be eligible for parole on July 17th, 2035.
Someone to see someone I wish I could see.
The man you just saw is Kevin Eastman, who would go on to give the most terrible acting performance in the interrogation room. Or was Kevin just caught in the wrong place at the wrong time?
On February 16, 2020, he was arrested at a gas station in Kersey, Colorado, while fleeing from an alleged crime. A crime scene that was considered to be one of the most chilling ever in Greeley, Colorado, had been found a few days prior. Kevin said that he was running from his longtime girlfriend, Heather Frank. However, when he was arrested, Heather Frank was conveniently missing. What followed next was a series of events that were filled with deception and unexpected twists. Interrogation rooms are known to be intimidating and can significantly impact individuals. With that in mind, do these clips show a man creating drama, or do they reveal someone overwhelmed by a situation? Let's hear from one of Kevin's friends, who revealed a detail that would turn out to be crucial in solving the case.
He would tell me that they both drank a lot, but he would tell me that she would keep drinking throughout the night, and she would get violent with him. Like they get into an argument and she'd hit on him.
Given the statement from Kevin's friend, do you think he was wrongfully arrested, or was he living a double life? Let's start from where it all began on Pingree Park Road. On February 10th, 2020, a snowplow operator in Pingree Park made a gruesome discovery and immediately called 911.
I'm on the Pingree Park Road at the Monument Gulch exit, and I have a dead body.
Okay, we'll get help on the way. Are you able to provide any details?
Well, there was a tree on fire, and I went up to put it out, and he's laying next to it.
Okay, and do you believe he's got any help?
Yeah, he's definitely passed away.
There's no indication that this guy was camping. There's no other personal property. He's face down next to a log. The tracks that we think might have been made by him or whoever was here.
11, I apologize. Same 18's out of the room, confirming there was a campfire made, just doesn't look normal.
It does not look like this is an intentional campfire. So this does not look normal.
The scene was far from normal. The charred remains belonged to a man seemingly in their early 50s. There were several unanswered questions when the detective tried to uncover the reason this man's body was found burned and abandoned. As it would turn out, some chilling revelations would lead the investigation to Kevin. The detective begins questioning Kevin to understand his involvement in the case and his relationship with the crime he was arrested for. They start with basic, open-ended questions to encourage Kevin to share more information about himself. The detectives were in the interrogation room with Kevin on February 16th, 2020. But how did they get there? 5 days prior to his arrest, a missing persons report was filed by 73-year-old Stanley Sessions on February 11th, 2020. The report was for his 53-year-old son, Scott. As investigators painstakingly pieced together the clues, a trail of evidence began to emerge. Little did they know that DNA from a household item would unveil Scott's fate, while also leading them to the man now sitting nervously in the interrogation room. 5 days of relentless investigation exposed the victim's past and his chilling connection to this man. The burnt remains found in Pingree Park on February 10th, 2020 were soon confirmed to belong to Scott Sessions. Scott was a dedicated musician in his early 50s. He played trumpet in a blues band and was very passionate about his career. He was loved and appreciated throughout his community for his remarkable talent and soulful music. Having a healthy career in music and supportive friends and family, Scott's life appeared something close to perfect.
This guy's been voted Northern Colorado's best trumpet player, Mr. Scott Sessions.
In a surveillance video, Scott is seen happily sharing the success of his band.
Scott! Hey, how are you? I said first. Come on over.
All right, thank you. I think I better put some money in the bank.
Working hard or hardly working?
Hardly working, really. We just got back from Memphis, so it's like, trying to recover. But we
was it family?
Yeah, it was an international blues challenge. So we made it to the semifinal round, and the band that from the semifinal round that was in our venue was the one that won it all. So we kind of basically lost to the lost to the winners, you know? But it was so fun.
That's good. That is good.
Still on the Memphis high, you know? It's great.
Scott's pride and happiness is evident in this footage. But he didn't know what fate had in store for him, and nothing would justify the gruesome nature of his murder. Scott had a gig scheduled for February 10th, 2022. It was highly unlikely that Scott would miss one of his gigs.
They had a candlelight dinner theater Monday night, and Scott didn't show up. George called and he said, "Do you have any idea where he might be?" And I said, "No, that's the first I knew that there was something."
Because Scott was very dependable.
Oh my God. Yes. He would not miss a gig with he would not. It was his life.
Sure.
And he had finally succeeded.
His passion for music was well known to his friends and family, and his absence at such an event sparked concern. Stanley Sessions then reported him missing on February 11th, 2022, unaware that his son's body had already been found just the day before in Pingree Park. When the detectives responded to the 911 call, they found a body that had been deliberately burned, wrapped in plastic, and tightly bound with duct tape. The autopsy revealed a horrific detail. Scott's throat had been slit with such force that it nearly decapitated him. Detectives realized that this was an act driven by pure rage. But why had Scott met with such a grim end? All he had in his mind was meeting Heather and having a quiet and comfortable evening. What the detectives were about to uncover would change the course of their investigation forever. To gain a better understanding of Scott's background and potential reasons for his death, detectives began questioning Stanley Sessions. They inquired about his son's nature and, in particular, his love life.
He had a hell of a track record there. He was married many, many years ago, and that ended up in divorce, and collected a felony out of that.
It turns out that after his failed marriage, Scott had 2 subsequent relationships, neither of which worked out due to his own actions. Both of his ex-girlfriends were questioned, and their responses gave detectives a clear understanding of Scott's character.
So during that relationship, you had indicated that there were some troubles and stuff like that?
In our relationship?
Yeah. Can you explain what those were?
He became very jealous. And that was difficult because I'd be out with friends, and if a man came up to talk to me, he would get upset. And then eventually, and he would get really angry. So I decided for my own safety and well-being, I filed a restraining order. And that was for 3 months.
Scott's temper often got in the way of his intentions, hinting at deeper unresolved issues. Yet after years of self-reflection and growth, he managed to repair his relationships with both women. In fact, in the last few years, he'd been able to maintain friendly terms with Loretta and Laura, who praised him and his unwavering passion for music. But there was another side of Scott that those close to him were always concerned about.
Scott struggled in a lot of ways, but he was amazing too, right? He was brilliant mind with music, and the ability to deal with people. He never forgot anybody's name, as you've read. He was nice to everybody, nice all the time. He never really had a reason to be mean to anybody until you pissed him off, right? Then it was another story. Always road rage. I hated driving with him. I used to say, Scott, people carry guns. Don't do that. Don't follow so close. Don't drive like that. That was always, so in this whole last few days, I thought maybe it was a road rage incident. Maybe he'd gone up to the mountains and something happened, so I thought, oh, that's a possibility. In my mind, it wasn't there's no way a random event took out Scott Sessions. I just don't think it. He made it 53 years. He's done. Crack, he's done. Meth, he's done. Scott's done everything. I don't think he's done heroin, but Scott, you don't know how he survives because he makes dumb decisions constantly. So I didn't think it would be a random act that takes him out, right? And I know that sounds kind of harsh to say take him out, but you think about it when you're around someone like that, when they risk themselves a lot.
Sure.
It wasn't just Scott's ex-girlfriend who pointed out Scott's recklessness. This made the detective wonder whether Scott had ventured somewhere he shouldn't have.
He was always a little kid, and he was always picked on himself. Well, he'd been in counseling since off and on, all the way from 2nd grade. And along the way, there's been some stuff. I've seen inside of jails I never ever expected to see. Met law enforcement people up and down the Front Range, and gathered him up a few times from jail. But it looked like he had really turned the page. And I tell you all of this because in my reaction to your telling me he was deceased I wasn't surprised very much, because I think we had been close to this place times before, years and years ago.
Sure.
So I didn't know. I didn't react because I guess for 50 years I've been conditioned that something could go wrong.
Detectives searched Scott's home for clues to identify a motive or the killer. They analyzed his cell phone data to determine his last location. Initially, it yielded no leads. The breakthrough came when they accessed his Facebook Messenger account using passwords found at his home. Scott's final chat on the day he went missing was with a woman named Heather Frank. Heather was one of the primary suspects from the beginning. But to know where it all started, the detective dug in deeper and found out that it was at one of his shows where he met the free-spirited and charming Heather Frank. Heather was 48 years old when she met Scott. Heather Frank, a local waitress, was someone Scott had recently met and felt an instant connection. Thus, they started seeing each other casually. Heather was a mother of 3 boys and longed for a healthy companionship. On February 8th, Heather had texted Scott on Facebook Messenger and invited him over to her place. It was a fun conversation, and Scott had responded to her invitation with equal enthusiasm. According to their text, Scott had gone over to Heather's home for a quiet and comfortable evening. But when Kevin was asked about Scott and Heather, he had a contradictory revelation.
So anyway, it came out that she had intimate relations with him.
Okay.
And that it wasn't like really... Oh, man. I'm trying to think of the right words, but...
Whatever claims Kevin made, it was clear at this point that something happened that night. It was the last time Scott spoke to his father, and it was the last time he was seen. Scott vanished that night without a trace, and his last communication had been with Heather, hinting at grim possibilities. Considering the Facebook chat, it seemed likely that Scott was at Heather's place. Tracing his phone, detectives got confirmation that it was indeed at Heather's. Police obtained cell phone records for Heather, and while doing so, they traced another cell phone to the same house. Guess whose cell phone it was? The same man sitting in the interrogation room, Kevin Eastman.
I went over to the house because I know that she gets too drunk, and I don't want her to lose her job.
Okay.
And I'm sure her car won't start if she's been drinking past a certain time, past 8 p.m. If she drinks past 8, she knows her car won't start. Then I've been with her on the phone in the past, and it's just easier to just go over there and make sure she's up and give her a ride.
And then you dry heaved a couple times in the sink.
Yeah, like 20.
Okay. So what room?
What wrong fucking... I don't know what you call it.
Can you get a trash can?
Kevin and Heather had had an on and off relationship for 5 years. At the time of the incident, Kevin was supposed to be at his sister's place in Parachute, as Heather and him had broken up a few months ago, and Kevin was trying to move on once and for all. However, cell tower data confirmed Kevin and Heather had been with Scott in Heather's apartment on the night of February 8th, 2022. The next morning, when Scott's phone went silent, Heather and Kevin's phones traveled together towards Poudre Canyon in Pingree Park, where Scott's body was later discovered. Security cameras outside an amphitheater captured Eastman's car heading west up the canyon and returning within a 3-hour window. Cell phone data also indicated that Kevin and Heather returned to her apartment after leaving the canyon. This significant development occurred when detectives issued warrants for the arrest of Heather Frank and Kevin Eastman. To gather further evidence, investigators tracked their movements using vehicle-mounted GPS devices and placed a surveillance camera outside Heather's residence. On the evening of February 15th, Heather exited her apartment with Kevin close behind. She appeared unsteady as she entered the passenger seat of Kevin's car. As detectives prepared to arrest the couple, they tracked Kevin's vehicle across rural Colorado and saw it making several stops. Larimer County Lieutenant Donnie Robbins, who was monitoring Kevin's activities, suspected he might be disposing of crucial evidence. Robbins observed Kevin tending a large fire on the property belonging to a man named Troy Bonnell. Upon Kevin's arrival at a nearby gas station, he was promptly arrested, but Heather was nowhere to be found. However, investigators couldn't rule out the possibility that he dropped Heather off at one of the stops he made along the way. In the first hour of the interrogation, Kevin Eastman is asked about his lifestyle, his recent whereabouts, and his relationship with Heather Frank. Kevin conveniently puts forward a narrative that he cannot remember many things about his life due to an injury.
But I suffer multiple different. My head's kind of all screwed up, so I had a crush. So yeah, my memory's not always what it should be. But I think I'm usually pretty adamant about taking care of stuff like that.
So that case involved a young lady, and we wanted to talk to you about that. Okay, but before we get into that case down in Denver, I want to talk to you about you, find out more about you, because I don't really know a bunch about you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
So where do you live right
now? I'm kind of in between three places.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to see how much backstory. So like a year ago on Valentine's Day, the lady that I'd been with went through hell and back, treating each other bad and good. And
he recalls his relationship with Heather is rough. He's able to mention a specific date from the past year, which he surprisingly remembers despite the alleged issue he faces with his memory. Let's find other instances like this from the interrogation. It's important to note here that detectives know far more about Kevin and his actions than he would ever want to reveal.
Hey Kevin, there's something else we know too.
Okay.
Saturday night, you, Heather, and Scott were all at Heather's house. We know that. Okay, so why don't you walk us through what happened?
Tell us what happened with Scott.
On Saturday night?
Yeah. Here's the thing, Kevin. I think that you want to tell me, all right, and you're struggling with getting over a speed bump. We already know that you were there with Scott at Heather's house. Saturday night, the 8th, at 7 o'clock, between 6 and 7 is when Scott got there, okay? You remember when I told you about they were having communications with each other? We know that you were there, that Heather was there, and that Scott was there, all right? This is not something that we can dispute, all right? And so what my purpose is right now is to help you get over that speed bump, okay? Because I know that you want to tell me what happened.
I think it was like before when she told me she had a date and she asked me to leave.
Okay.
And that's when I plundered my phone for $100.
Okay.
Okay, tell us about being there with Scott.
Yeah, we know that you were there.
I don't remember anything.
Here's the thing,
a dude named Scott.
Kevin repeatedly denies meeting Scott on the evening of February 8th, 2022, even though the detectives present evidence placing both him and Heather at the scene that night. He insists that he cannot remember. However, his story begins to unravel when he makes some conflicting claims about his feelings toward Heather. The detectives have evidence suggesting otherwise. Watch how they unmask him step by step.
You told us that you proposed to her. I mean, you feel very deeply for this woman.
I love her with all my heart.
I get that. And what you're telling us, there is no doubt that you love her more than anything. And loving a woman more than anything in this world. And, you know, it doesn't sound like she's toying with you, but intentionally. But for her,
it's not intentional.
But for her to go out and you know that she had intimate relations with Scott, that's like a, you know, not only sticking something in your chest, but it's twisting it too. I can imagine you feel pretty awful.
I'm pretty callous to it from all the years that it's been going on.
Well, you say you might be callous to it, but there's still something though that, if not, you know, making you feel bad, your pride. Okay?
Oh no, it's got nothing to do with pride, just my self-worth. It just makes me feel like, yeah, I try and be everything I can. And I still don't mean nothing to her.
So I'm sure you do. So you're at this house with Heather, with Scott, the guy that you know she has slept with.
That would be awkward.
That would be very awkward. Tell us what happened there. When you're with your person you proposed to a week later.
Right.
And Scott's there.
I don't even remember anybody named Scott.
Kevin claims to love Heather with all his heart, but his actions paint a different picture. The detectives have compelling evidence that exposes the contradictions in his claims, suggesting that Kevin is not the man he's portraying himself to be.
Amazing grace. I see the moon sees someone I wish I could see. Frère Jacques, Frère Marjon, Frère Marjon. Give me back the clicker.
She could be black and blue. And you have to understand, her and Kevin was together for a really long time. Their relationship was really good, and then it started getting crazy. Just some of the things that she would tell me is he wasn't. He was very physical. If they drank together, it would get extremely physical. So she started going to therapy. They both wanted to do couples therapy. That wasn't working. So, she would tell me that she would want to break up with him, but she was afraid that he wouldn't take it well.
Allie Noby is an old friend of Heather's. She was the manager of the restaurant where Heather worked as a waitress for years. She'd opened up to Allie multiple times about her tumultuous relationship with Kevin. When detectives were conducting the background check into Kevin and Heather, Allie had more to say about their disturbing equation. Heather was clearly in an abusive relationship, but it wasn't just Allie who spoke up.
Things got rocky. There was a couple times where she couldn't come to work, and she'd show up and I'd meet her outside.
Alexander McLaughlin, Heather's eldest son, also came forward with shocking revelations that helped the detectives understand the dynamic between Heather and Kevin better.
Tell me about your mom and Kevin's relationship.
Wild, I guess I would say. Like, in the beginning, when they first met, he's an alcoholic. My mom is pretty much an alcoholic too. They would get into a lot of fights. The first incident of him ever hurting her, he broke her wrist and tried to slit her throat. She told me it was a bar fight, but this was back in 2014, so 5-6 years ago.
And when you say he tried to slice her throat, how do you know that?
Because her throat had a scar, or not a scar, it was scabbed over, like he tried to cut her throat with a dull knife.
This wasn't the only time Kevin was violent with Heather. He repeatedly caused physical trauma to her. This time, it was a broken wrist and a scar on her throat. A couple of years later, it went a step further when Heather was hospitalized.
Okay, we'll turn the lights on. I just got assigned this call. What tell me what happened?
Just argument in the hotel room, punches to the left side of my ribs, and I had to get out of there because it was going to hurt worse, so I left.
Who did this to you?
Kevin Eastwood.
How many times did he punch you?
3 times. Just like, get away, like he always does. This is the first time he's done this to me.
Kevin isn't the man he's pretending to be in the interrogation room, and the detectives see right through him thanks to the background details they've gathered. However, there are still clouds that shroud Heather's involvement in this case. While Kevin tries to act like the most caring partner, the detectives swiftly dismantle his deception. They've already pinpointed his triggers and will now use these to push his buttons. Watch as Kevin's facade begins to crack under their mounting pressure.
I know you guys are probably tired and frustrated, and I'm sorry I can't answer your questions any better, but could we possibly help jog my memory? I know you don't believe that I can't remember.
Kevin says, I am never the victim. Kevin is absolutely right in saying this. However, his response only highlights how shaken and uncomfortable he is with the idea of Heather being with someone else. From here on, the detective attempts to hit every possible button to trigger Kevin in order to unmask this monster for better.
Where's Heather?
What?
Where's Heather?
She's probably at work.
She's not at work. She's not home. And her car's home.
And we're at her house. Okay?
Run that by me again?
Where is Heather?
I thought she'd be at work.
She's not there. Okay?
And you're saying her car's at her house?
Remember?
She could be with Mike. I mean...
You were there last night. You were at her house last night.
I was at her house yesterday afternoon. We spent the whole day together. And then, like I said, she got mad. She's disappeared with Mike for a couple of days before. She almost lost her job over it once.
The detective confronts Kevin about Heather's whereabouts. His carefree answers speak volumes. His responses may seem calm and genuine, but by now it has been established that Kevin is anything but honest. The truth is still in the dark, but detectives will soon bring it to light.
I can tell you where we sat. I remember that. I remember where we sat. I remember the waitress she hadn't been there very long. Oh gosh, man, we were really there, guys. We were really there. I can tell you that Heather spent $70 on a 6-pack. No, it would have been $70. When she went upstairs to the liquor store, there should be proof of her credit card receipt. Because I think we paid cash for the breakfast. I don't know. We were really there. We really ate.
Okay, so you were at the Glen Echo. You're saying that you were there. Okay, but either before Glen Echo or after Glen Echo, you took a drive up to Pingree Park. Okay, you went up in the mountains and you were checking Forest Service Road gates. And you guys drove up there. Okay?
I think Heather was sick.
Okay. And you guys got up there and what did you guys do?
And she wanted to go up to the mountains. And that made her feel better, so then we thought we'd try and eat.
Okay. And you guys drove up there and what did you do? You guys parked.
I just remember going to Glen Echo.
Kevin,
Okay.
are you covering for Heather?
Did Heather do something?
Was Heather defending herself against this guy? You went over there, she freaked out, there was a mess, and being the devoted partner you are to her,
You helped her, didn't you?
you cleaned up Heather's mess.
It's okay.
Well, I know that I should love her a lot. And now you guys got me worried because she didn't go to work today.
Kevin, let's talk about this weekend. We're not talking about today. Okay. You guys went up to the Poudre Canyon. You went up to Pingree Park. You went up there to drop Scott off. Okay? Because something happened between her and Heather, and you went to help her out because you are devoted to her. You will do anything to help her when she's in a jam. She doesn't respect you, but you will respect her. You will do anything to help her get out of a mess, right?
I love her a lot.
You do.
She loves me.
And you will love her to the point where you will help her do this. Kevin, what happened?
You're saying that this...
We're saying that you were there and we know that you were there and you helped her get out of this.
It looks like the detectives are quite close to a confession. It's clear as day to the detectives that Heather did something accidentally to Scott and that Kevin then volunteered to get rid of him. But as mentioned before, the truth is still shrouded in darkness. It's just a matter of time before the detectives will uncover these chilling details.
So I came back over here, and I was living at Troy's where I work, and then sometimes I stay at Heather's house.
So where does Troy work at?
He owns Bonnell Trucking.
Bonnell Trucking? Okay, where's that at?
It's in Greeley.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you've been living at Bonnell Trucking in the shop?
Yeah, well, actually, his house is right next to the shop, and he gave me a room in the basement. He said $500 a week and free room and board, and then he'll pay me more as things progress better, because he's getting ready to sell a part of his property.
Okay.
Let's backtrack a bit. At the start of the interrogation, Kevin claimed he worked under Troy Bonnell on a permanent basis. However, when Troy Bonnell was brought in for questioning, he denies any such arrangement. He confirms that Kevin only occasionally came and worked for him. As Troy speaks to the detectives, a team of law enforcement officers is busy searching his property.
After the breakup and Heather and I moving out and everything else, or me moving out from Heather just as a self-preservation tactic, it didn't work out very well because I still just self-destructed. But my sister seen me, she saved me, and she got me over there. She's like,
Howdy gamers, in today's episode we're checking out for the first time Delta Force. This is a tactical shooter spanning 3 different modes, 32v32 battles, an extraction mode, and a Black Hawk Down campaign based in 1993 Mogadishu. And the best part, it will be entirely free to play when it launches next year on PC, console, and mobile, with the devs being pretty transparent about future content and explicitly promising to never include pay-to-win features. The PC alpha test is ongoing and you can wishlist the game on Steam in the description down below, and thanks to Delta Force for sponsoring this video. First, we're going to jump into the 32v32 Havoc Warfare mode, where you can choose characters with different equipment and weapon classes, and on those weapons you can go full-on gunsmith mode and pick different items like foregrips, stocks, pistol grips, mags, muzzles, all whatever. And you can also tune the modifications on your rifle if you prefer things like aim down sight or hipfire accuracy, recoil reduction, or ADS time, and they actually make a noticeable difference when firing downrange. It's not all gimmicky. The Milsim enjoyer inside of me wishes the whole game could have been that Black Hawk Down aesthetic that the campaign will have, as I played the original Delta Force on my Xbox when I was pretty little, and I think that that is an iconic era of military history to cover, but at least some cool weapons from that era like Car-15s and G3s are in the game, and a few others as well, which we don't get to see in mini shooters. I can't wait to try out the campaign when it releases, but
these new game devs are going crazy with the animations. These new game devs are going crazy with the animation.
Howdy gamers, in today's episode we're checking out for the first time Delta Force.
Can you build a bow? Yeah. One wood that we have in Colorado is called coyote willow. That's going to be my bow wood. It's going to take me about 25 to 30 days to dry out. All right, so it's been about 28 days It's not 100% dry, but it's going to have to do. This is going to be the back of my bow. It's going to be the belly of my bow. I don't ever want to take any wood from the back of the bow. I take wood from the belly of the bow. Removing the bark is fine. So this is just a light scrape. All right, let's cut the end for the strings. I'm going to step outside, get it strung. I want my brace height to be at least 1 fist to a thumb up. Let's get an arrow. All right, that's how you build a bow. Can you build a bow? Yeah. One wood that we have in Colorado is called coyote willow. That's going to be
grew up with a very humble beginning of. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and I'm here today at MP Armory, courtesy of ANCA, the Romanian National Association of Firearms Collectors, to talk about specifically the firearms of the communist-era Romanian leader, Nicolae Ceausescu, and specifically his relationship to hunting, because on the one hand, hunting is sort of one of those activities, leisure activities of the aristocracy, the old style royalty. But that's the sort of thing that a lot of modern leaders also, especially communist leaders during the Cold War, it was something they aspired to match. They wanted to do the things of the aristocracy, and one of those things was hunting. However, with Ceausescu, hunting really was a passion of his, and it was something that he was both good at and enjoyed, and it wasn't just for appearance's sake. And so Ceausescu actually had a fairly substantial collection of firearms that were primarily for hunting. He first mostly rose to power in 1965 when he became the General Secretary of the Communist Party of Romania, having been a member of the Communist Party there since before World War II. He then kind of acquired more power until he became president in 1974, and that's when he really essentially became a dictator of the country. And this whole time, he spent a lot of effort and a lot of time hunting. And what we have here actually is one of his hunting rifles made specifically for him, or imported specifically for him. This is actually a Sacco Model 61 Finbear in 7x64, like perfectly appropriate hunting rifle. So there are a number of things that resulted from Ceausescu's interest in hunting. So first off, he was born in 1918, essentially as the son of a peasant. Grew up with very humble beginnings. This is part of what got him into power in Romania, this idea on the part of the Soviets that he would be easy to control and to lead because
it's called in Romania Bucharest's other host of the laboratory.
Din partea lui Mihail Gorbaciov, ce era scriitorul său din umbră, ce îi redacta și cenzura textele și discursurile de atunci. În interiorul casei o să vedeți mai multe cadouri primite de către Nicolae Ceaușescu de la diverse personalități ale timpului. De exemplu, în această încăpere, covorul este iranian și a fost primit din partea ultimului șah al Iranului, Mohammad Reza Pavliar-Yamer. Iar în vitrina de acolo avem câteva seturi de farfurii decorative ce au fost primite din partea reginei Elisabeta a II-a Marii Britanii. Toate decoratorul, de asemenea, este roști, familia găsește și urile de pentru restul buncărului a fost sigilat în 1989, dacă țineți minte, era în toate școlile urmași. Era singura franțuză realizată din marmură de Carrara. În spatele nostru se află această ușă. Este scumpă întrucât este stânga decorată în mozaicuri românești create de către doi artiști români binecunoscuți între anii 60-70, se numeau Olga Porumbaru și Florin Pârvulescu, aici stânga-dreapta reprezentând doi porumbei, iar pe celălalt perete este o pereche de păuni reprezentând anotimpurile. La această masă centrală, soții Ceaușescu serveau cafeaua pe timpul iernii. Ne aflăm în dressingul principal, compus din acest salon, prezentând doi compus din acest salon, camera de probă în față și depozitul de haine în vârf.
Nomenclatura, Romania's political elite. For
acquired more power until he became president in 1974, and that's when he really essentially became a dictator of the country. And this whole time, he spent a lot of effort and a lot of time hunting. And what we have here actually is one of his hunting rifles made specifically for him, or imported specifically for him. This is actually a Sacco Model 61 Finbear in 7x64, like perfectly appropriate hunting rifle. So there are a number of things that resulted from Ceausescu's interest in hunting. So first off, he was born in 1918, essentially as the son of a peasant. Grew up with very humble beginnings. This is part of what got him into power in Romania, this idea on the part of the Soviets that he would be easy to control and to lead because, you know, he was basically just a peasant, which didn't actually work out. He had a significant amount of autonomy from the Soviet Union, especially after the Prague Spring, but we'll get to that in a moment. So, very interested in hunting, and as a result, the game conservation in Romania under his leadership was actually taken fairly seriously. There were large swaths of national forests that were reserved just for him to hunt in. It's good to be the leader. There were also plenty of areas of forest that were accessible for the public to hunt in as well. Hunting was not a difficult thing to do for the public during the communist period in Romania. There was, you know, some permitting, some licensing, but not a big deal. In many ways, it was easier to do back then than it is today. Things like carrying, say, a shotgun in public, not seen as a big deal. It's, so you're out bird hunting, that sort of thing. And both Ceausescu himself and essentially the forest rangers, the conservation element of the bureaucracy, took care to preserve game, to improve breeds, to make sure that the animals were kept, animal populations were kept healthy, were kept large, were kept appropriate for hunting. There was a good conservation element to the communist Romanian government, which is a nice thing. And it's not just something that Ceausescu did himself. It also turned into a tool of diplomacy. It was, frankly, it was a way for Romania to earn a little bit of money on the side. There were a lot of other Eastern Bloc countries whose leaders, who were also interested in hunting, would come to Romania to hunt bear in particular. Ceausescu still holds the record bear killed in the country, and it's a country that has more of a bear population than essentially anywhere else in Europe at this point. So let's take a closer look at this Sacco, because it really is pretty indicative of the small arms that Ceausescu himself kept. So what we have here fundamentally is a totally normal commercial rifle. It's a Sacco Finbear, chambered in 7x64 millimeter, so classic, especially European hunting cartridge. There's the marking on the barrel, the model, Finbear, made in Finland. The other barrel markings are a little bit hard to see under the scope there, but you can see Sacco 7x64. And then the side of the receiver is custom engraved, special for Nicolae Ceausescu, along with the original designation and serial number. Now, this gun spent a significant amount of time in some fairly bad conditions. It's got some wear to the bluing, especially out towards the muzzle, and the stock was in very poor condition when its current owner picked it up. So it's still the original stock. It's been very nicely restored, and it still has the original scope that Ceausescu put on it, which is a Zeiss Diavari Z, 1.5 to 6 by 42 millimeter scope. Again, a classic, excellent choice. Like, this is, in fact, what a true hunter would very likely choose. It's a good rifle, it's a good scope, it's a very practical choice. There are allegations of Ceausescu dumping tons of money into all sorts of frivolous luxury and gold-plated sink handles and that sort of thing. The reality is, maybe to some extent, his wife did some of that sort of thing. He didn't so much. He had more, I'm not going to say necessarily simple tastes, but when it came to hunting, really actually a passion of his, practical and effective was the idea. So bolt action, Sacco rifle with a Zeiss scope is a perfect solution. Now, the end came for communism in Romania in December of 1989. Ceausescu was overthrown, killed, and in the aftermath, all of his possessions ended up either taken into official, firearms, taken into official police possession, or kind of scattered to the winds as people managed to pick and choose and keep things on the sly, sort of. At his own house, there were 105 registered firearms, which isn't that big of a collection for a head of state, but it's, I think, one that's a bit more fitting for someone who's primarily interested in hunting. Ceausescu was not a gun history collector, he was an avid hunter, and so he had a very substantial collection of primarily hunting weapons. Now, some of his guns were registered, some were not. It wasn't like the police were going to kick down his door and demand that he register all his firearms, but a lot of the guns that he got were official gifts. So I mentioned the Prague Spring earlier. When the Soviet Union sent troops in to quell the uprising in Prague, Ceausescu and Romania were the only country in the Soviet bloc, in the Eastern Bloc, that stood up and argued against this action. And that Ceausescu and Romania mentioned the Prague Spring earlier. When the Soviet Union sent troops in to quell the uprising in Prague, Ceausescu and Romania were the only country in the Soviet bloc, in the Eastern Bloc, that stood up and argued against this action. And the Soviet Union official gifts. So I mentioned the Prague Spring earlier. When the Soviet Union sent troops in to quell the uprising in Prague, Ceausescu and Romania were the only country in the Soviet bloc, in the Eastern Bloc, that stood up and argued against this action. And that streak of independence gave Ceausescu a lot of street cred, essentially, with Western governments. And so in the wake of that, there were better relations between Romania and the West. There were visits back and forth with heads of state, and as one does or did, heads of state would often bring gift firearms. So Queen Elizabeth of England, of the UK, presented Ceausescu with a pair of Holland and Holland double rifles. One of the American presidents presented him with a Colt Peacemaker. That and many other diplomatic gifts made up the 105 registered guns that were found in his residence after his death. He had a number of hunting lodges around the country in Romania that almost certainly had other guns in them. This particular one is not an official gift. It was never registered on the police registry as belonging to him, but of course we can see that it was. And it actually originally came from someone who was in the firearms enforcement police force in Romania when the revolution took place. So clearly one of those guns that was found and kind of, we'll just take this home with us. And anyway, ended up on the commercial collector market here in Romania. So I think it's pretty interesting to look at how the interests of a particular leader can influence national policy. And it's something that certainly helped the hunting community in Romania, something that kept hunting as a viable sport and a vibrant sport even. And it continues to be a destination today, both for everyday folks and also for not aristocracy so much anymore, but heads of state, leaders, ambassadors, high-level officials.
We think of the Texas Rangers today, we think of like Chuck Norris.
Yeah.
You really don't realize that they were a group that was created to effectively combat the Comanche.
Exactly. They evolved as Comanche fighters, fighting like Comanches did. I mean, they learned bird signs to track people. They would make cold camps. They learned these techniques of warfare, and they got really good at it. They've just had this one problem. The problem was that they had 3 shots in Kentucky long rifle, bang, and 2 single-shot pistols. Lo and behold, this inventor named Samuel Colt had come up with a prototype. It was a really ingenious little pistol. It was a 5-shot pistol because now they had 5 shots, 1 interchangeable cylinder, now 10 shots in each pistol now. So in close-hand combat, the world changed. Colt becomes one of the richest men in America. And basically Jack Hayes and the Rangers redefined warfare.
We think of the Texas Rangers today, we think of like Chuck.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCullough.
Good morning everyone, and welcome back to another Tuesday in Red Dead Online. This week's update lasts from today, which is August the 27th, and it is active all the way until next week, September the 2nd, which is going to be the final day of this event. And of course, this week we have some more free items and rewards. This is the 5th and final week of this August event, and so to all of our big playing the game, hopefully you've been by dropping a like on it, and if you hit that subscribe button with your bell notification, will be rewarded with the light gray carbo double bandolier. So that is some limited stock clothing right there. You can of course get this all the way until September the 2nd. Previously, for players who have been collecting 3 collectibles each week, last week the reward was the Gator Hat, the week prior was the Blue Water Marsh treasure map. Got some free gold and money from the treasure map, some limited stock clothing items like the Gator Hat and things like go away. So if we can just start breaking those down, if you just log in during this week, you'll get the black pattern bandana, so you might as well just open up the game to get that in the first place if you have not already. If you collect a fossil this week, you'll also receive the American Wildflowers collector's map. If you complete your collector daily challenges for 3 consecutive days in a row, you will be rewarded with the Black McBay jacket, so again, a limited in a row this week. You'll also get serious money for the 50,000 duplicate items just sitting in my satchel in the featured series game modes. For our discounts, of course, you can get your discount on the actual collector's bag and collector roll. That is going to be 30% off. We do have 50% off the Aguila machete, 40% off the bounty hunter roll Breton horses, as well as the workhorse. Just go over it one more time. He features the Barris vest, the worsted coat for male characters, or if you're a female, the classic the lumber. Week from today, or 6 days from today, definitely keep an eye out for that video because hopefully the September monthly event is also pretty good. Now real quick here, I of course wanted to jump in the game just to showcase one thing to you. So you can see I'm sitting at $852,848 right now. I just took a look back during my Twitch live streams and my VODs to see like when this August event got started and how much money and gold I was at. And just according to that number, on July 30th, which was right at the start of this collector event, I had 2,760 gold bars and I had $804,479. So a little bit less than 50K, but not too far off, especially with 1 week left of the collector event. I will definitely eclipse duplicate items. Basic money, sell where we get some good bonuses, but now that we've had